guys, it's Kay. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello. My name is Kay. I'm a professional home organizer and soprano here in the Boston area, and I'm here to inspire you to live a more organized life. So today's video is not about organizing or cleaning, so if you want to skip this, that's totally fine. I'll see you in the next one. But today I want to talk about my experience with uterine fibroids, my experience with the surgery, and my experience in organizing before surgery so that I could have a very smooth recovery. I want to make this video for women who may have fibroids but don't know it and don't know what their weird symptoms are and whether they should get checked out. And for the women who are nervous about having this surgery, I want to make you feel a little bit more comfortable or basically let you know what to expect. So if you don't know what fibroids are, they are a growth, a benign tumor in the uterus of women, and they are 99.9% benign, which means they're non-cancerous. There are very rare instances where they can be malignant, but that is very, 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 very rare. So just rest assured that if you get diagnosed with fibroids, it's most likely not a cancerous growth in your uterus. It's just something that happens and they can be treated and you'll feel much better. But you are much more likely to get these tumors, and they can grow anywhere in your uterus, by the way. They can grow on the inside of the muscle of the uterus. They can grow on like pedunculated, like coming off the uterus with like little almost like little attachments, weird things like that. They can grow anywhere, and they can be as big as like a grapefruit, or they can be, really, really small. Most likely if they're very tiny, you probably won't even know they're there, but they can become very large and cause symptoms that will disrupt your life. Unfortunately, if you are of African American descent, you are more likely to get these fibroids, and also if you've had a relative that has also had fibroids, you're more likely to develop them. I had 2 strikes against me in which I was both African American and my mother had fibroids as well. I was actually in her uterus when she had all these fibroids. I'm surprised I even came out the other side alive. They gave her a hysterectomy right after I was born. I was born via C-section in the 70s, and the uterus was like donezo. Actually, probably now they would have given her a little different treatment. I don't think they would have removed all of her ovaries and all that stuff. But at the time, that was the best order of treatment then. So it was pretty certain that I was also going to develop fibroids. I will also say that I'm coming from the background of a daughter from a medical family. So my mother is an ophthalmologist and my dad is an oral surgeon. So information about the reproductive system and about body stuff and about health was never a mystery to me. There were always tons of medical literature available to me, which I did partake in. I was very, very curious and read all kinds of medical books, and I was just very fascinated by the whole thing. So I just wanted to put that out there to let you know that I'm very comfortable with having a surgery and being in a hospital environment, and I feel more comfortable with these procedures just because I know, that they're very likely to take very good care of you if these situations arise. But how I knew I had fibroids was kind of a long, convoluted story. I've always had sort of a bad period experience, but I was, pretty able to get it managed, up until my late 30s. When it was in my late 30s, my periods became very heavy and a lot longer than, they should be, like maybe like 8 days instead of just the normal, 5 to 7 days. So it was slightly longer and I bled a lot. I started to need to buy the highest absorbency tampon on the market, I think, at this point. I was going through and for a while that was enough for me. Like I would go through maybe 2 or 3 of those a day and I was good. But later in the process, I started to go through one of those every hour. So I needed to actually have one of those tampons and then having a backup maxi pad to prevent me from having accidents and things like that. And even then, I still had times where I had accidents. There was actually one incident that was really embarrassing where I had to go to Target and deal with my stuff in the bathroom at Target and then go buy a new pair of jeans. Maybe a year after I had started having these really heavy periods, I started to notice that I became really tired all the time, that I just was always exhausted, and even, I drank a lot more coffee than I probably should have, and I like coffee, but I was very tired. I'm very fatigued, And I started to have this chest tightness and shortness of breath, and I didn't know what the deal was. And I went to my general practitioner and I was like, listen, do I have walking pneumonia or something? You know, because I was concerned that I was actually like sick but didn't know it. And she says, you know what? Let's actually get a blood sample from you and we'll test your iron levels to see if you have low iron. And it turns in, they called me back and said, normal iron levels are about 11 and you have about 2. So we need to get you on an iron supplement ASAPs. They're like, go to Target right now, get iron. Like, we need you to do this like tonight. So I followed up. I took iron supplements and I actually followed up with a hematologist who, you know, kept track of me, and I could get my levels back up to pretty much normal for a little while, and then I would bleed again and feel like crummy for like 2 weeks. So about 2 weeks out of the month I felt okay, and then like 2 weeks out of the month I would feel kind of crummy. So I was anemic from the blood loss every month, and I was dealing with the blood loss every month. And then January this year, we moved into our new apartment, which I'm in right now. And I was, you know, of course, unpacking boxes and building furniture and doing things. And I noticed that when I was doing all this, I'm having these back pains. And I'm like, I'm being really careful. It's not about me, you know, overtaxing my back. And then I was also having these cramps, like cramps that I was like, if I was having my period. So I thought, well, maybe I have a copper IUD called Paragard, and I was like, well, maybe that's moved. Because I've had the event actually where my Paragard has moved or located another part of my uterus, and they had to take it out, give me a new one. So I was like, I wonder if that happened again. So I went to the gynecologist, and he did an ultrasound and found that I had at least 1 fibroid. And I was like, oh, well, that means that's that. But I didn't assume that that was the reason for the heavy bleeding and stuff. So I came back and he, you know, did another ultrasound where he mapped the fibroids, and which means he's going to do an ultrasound and actually look very carefully and count them and make a point and make a note of the location of them and the size. And he said he saw at least 3, and they were 3 centimeters and 5 centimeters. That's about the size of like, I think, a cherry and like a plum respectively. So he gave me a number of treatment options for these fibroids. He was like, you can get a hormonal IUD that will sort of counteract the, I think they feed off estrogen, and this was a progesterone IUD, you know, so it would counteract what they needed to sort of survive, and would likely shrink them, but maybe not, who knows. I could get a uterine ablation, which means they like basically burn the inside of your uterus, I think, but it sort of makes you infertile, and I didn't really want to take that choice away from me. I could get a typical open myomectomy where they would open you up and take out the tumors that way, or I could get a laparoscopic myomectomy in which they insert, in which they give you some small incisions and do the procedure with the assistance of robot arms. The laparoscopic surgery had a shorter recovery time than a typical open myomectomy, and he said it was, you know, pretty successful and very accurate. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm just like, let's get him removed. I'm like, let's just do this. Like, let's just get him out. Get him out. That's what I wanted to do, just get him out. So unfortunately, when this happened was the very start of the shutdown due to the global pandemic here in America, which was about early March. So I had to wait until late August to get a consultation with a surgeon, and when I did, he was like, you're gonna feel so much better after I do this. He was like, I do this every day, just take him out. He showed me pictures. It was really fascinating. You know, I was like, sign me up, let's do this. And I got a surgery date 3 weeks prior to now on the 8th of September. And yeah. So if you've never had a surgery before, it can be really scary because you don't know what to expect. They're gonna put you to sleep and they're gonna do stuff to you, and it's freaky, right? But I wanna give you a little bit of comfort. I've had 3 surgeries at least before. I had an ankle surgery where I broke my ankle really bad and they had to put screws in my ankle. I had those screws subsequently removed when they started to back out, I think like 7 or 8 years later. I had broke my finger like 4 years ago, and I had to have a little surgery on this finger. And I had all 4 of my wisdom teeth removed. I I feel like I've had something else done, but probably not. So I've had my experiences with having surgery before, and I knew that anesthesia is something that's weird, but it's something that you can recover from. Everybody recovers differently from anesthesia, so when you get to the hospital, please let the anesthesiologist know what you're like. Like, let them know if you have any allergies, let them know if you have motion sickness, or if you're prone to nausea, let them know if you need a smaller intubation tube. I'm a professional singer, and I was like, listen, I'm gonna need you to be careful with the intubation tubes and all this stuff. And they're very good, they take a note of that stuff. You won't be allowed to eat or drink the day before, well, the night before your surgery. So I was instructed no food or drink after midnight. I felt like a gremlin. And if you brush your teeth, you're not allowed to like swallow, of course, the toothpaste or the water that you brush your teeth with. So, but please brush your teeth, because you can be prone to some infections if you don't clear out some of that bacteria, because they're gonna be putting stuff in your mouth. So the morning of the surgery, I made sure to wash my hair because I knew I wasn't going to be able to do anything for at least a week. And I went in with clean hair, and you're not allowed to wear any jewelry, or you probably should take the paint off of your nails because they need some of this information to make sure that you're getting enough oxygen. But I did have my toenails painted. I was like real cute. So I went to the hospital. I went through a lot of like checkpoints because of now of the pandemic. You have to go through all these checkpoints. They take your temperature, they do all kinds of nonsense. But when I got inside the hospital, I felt really good. I've filled out lots of forms, and they make you get into the beautiful hospital gown, which is open in the back. You're gonna be it's very flattering. Oh, I wanna add the other weird side effect I had from having fibroids is my abdomen actually was very enlarged. I thought that I was just gaining weight or becoming fat, but I was actually, my uterus was actually the size of a 15-month-old pregnancy. So in reality, my uterus was getting bigger and expanding and making me feel kind of bulky, and that's why my clothes weren't fitting the same. So I'm very excited to have my clothes fit again, but that's another weird side effect I had because of fibroids. If you've never had a surgery, before surgery, it's very intense. There's gonna be a lot of people in and out of your preparation room and around your bed. There's gonna be nurses, anesthesiologists, anesthesiologist assistants. There's going to be doctor's assistants. The surgeon's going to be there coming in. There's going to be a lot of people swarming around you. Don't be nervous. They're all there to take care of you. The great thing about anesthesia is that you will most likely forget everything that happens right before the surgery. I have been under anesthesia, general anesthesia, I guess twice before, and I forget what happens after I'm given the drug Versed very quickly. Like, I'm talking, I have recollection of about 30 seconds of like content, and then it's gone. Like, it's gone. I don't remember being wheeled to the surgical room. I don't remember any of that stuff. My husband said I was loopy but said normal things, but that's just what happens. So just know that you're not gonna like have super intense memories of the entire experience. Once they give you the medicine in your IV to put you to sleep, you'll wake up in the recovery room and you will be like, whoa. So I woke up in the recovery room, and I just remember being sort of awake, but not really. And once the nurses saw me wake up, they came over to check to see if I was okay. She gave me a little bit of ginger ale, which I was very grateful for because I hadn't had anything to eat or drink since midnight of the previous day. And she, let me know that the surgery was successful and that everything went fine. And she made me look at my incisions. I have 4 little incisions across my abdomen. I will put a little picture of the way that they look now. I don't have any footage of the way they looked before, but they look pretty good now. They're really small. The only incision that's pretty uncomfortable for me still right now is my umbilical incision where they went through my belly button. I think that it's very uncomfortable because I have a little bit of an outie innie sort of situation with my belly button, so it still hurts. And some of the steri strips are still on, but and the surgical glue is still on, but I'm letting that just fall off naturally. My surgeon said I could just take it off, but I'm like, I'm just gonna let them fall, So, but they let me use the bathroom after surgery. I had to walk to the bathroom with assistance, but I was able to walk there. The only thing that was really difficult for me was recovering from anesthesia. And I was sort of hunched over from the pain of my incisions because I felt like I couldn't really stretch my abdomen too much because, you know, it was pretty fresh, but it wasn't actually that much pain to me. And sometimes for these surgeries, they keep you overnight. They did not elect to keep me overnight. You know, he let me know, he was like, hey, we'll keep you overnight if we feel like we need to, but if you're doing really well, we'll just send you home and, you know, you can recover at home, which I was grateful for. I didn't really want to get up out of bed and go into the car and make the drive home. The drive home was about 30 minutes and I did not want to go through that. But it turns out that that was probably the best thing. So I think I was in the recovery room for about like 2 or 3 hours, and I got dressed. I don't know how I did that, but I got dressed. I was really out of it. I got wheeled down to the front of the hospital, and my husband was there to pick me up. Of course, Clover was there. And I kind of sat back in the car seat and went home. And the whole ride home, if there was a bump on the road, I was like scream. It was really like, that was the hardest thing about getting home, was like the bumpy road, because every bump I felt, and it was pretty painful. So but after I got home, I was very grateful to be home, and the first thing I did was wash my hands, come to the bed, and go back to sleep. I didn't have too much of an appetite the first few days, and I was catheterized, which means they had a catheter in my urethra and in my bladder. I know that this is like a lot of TMI for people, but that's most likely what's going to happen to you, and that can really irritate your urethra and your bladder. So I was up all night going back and forth to the bathroom, which is over there, and I didn't know what would happen. I didn't like register in my head that I had been catheterized until I talked to the nurse the next morning, who called to check on me. But I was very tired. I slept a lot the first few days, and I was unable to sit up by myself. So I had my husband help me sit up, and the only thing I could really tolerate eating was like soup, crackers, and some cranberry juice and water. I didn't really want to eat a lot of heavy foods, and everybody's different from anesthesia, but after I come out from anesthesia, I don't really want to eat a lot of stuff. So I gradually got my appetite back after about a week, but for about a week, I didn't really want to eat much of anything. I managed my pain with Motrin, which is ibuprofen, and it was pretty okay. The only thing that was hard for me was I got my period about like on Friday. I had my surgery on a Tuesday, and on Friday I got my period, which was really unfortunate because my uterus was very angry with me that I had done something to her. So I had a lot of really intense cramps, and the bleeding was about the same, that I had before. So I was dealing with this heavy bleeding, and then with the pain from my periods, and then like everything was irritated, and going to the bathroom was very, 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 very uncomfortable. But I got through my period, which was like 7 days. So my first few days were spent sort of recovering from, the anesthesia, and then I had the period, which was awful. But then after I got through that, it's been smooth sailing. I was not allowed to lift anything really. So I spent a long time not lifting the dog. So I didn't really go out very much. After I had my surgery, I spent a lot of time in the bed, just chilling, a lot of time playing video games. But I walked around every day. I would walk around the apartment and make sure that I got up and moving. And that's what you should do too, is you get up and moving as soon as you can, just to make sure that your muscles don't atrophy. And it'll promote healing a little bit more if you can actually get up and move. Don't do anything that's gonna rip your incisions open or lift up heavy things. Don't work out, but just get up and walk around. And so, a few days later, after I had my surgery, I actually got to walk around the block, which was really special. And then now I'm basically back to my normal activity. I'm still taking it easy a little bit, but I'm basically back to my normal activity. I want to say that if you're nervous about having this surgery, that's totally normal, but just know that they're there to take care of you, and they're there to make sure that you have the most comfortable experience that you can, and that you will feel better in a few weeks. I know that the first like 10 days for me were very difficult, but then it got much better after that. They gave me some Percocet to take for the pain. I don't mess around with that stuff very much. So Motrin was enough to handle the level of pain. I didn't even really have that much pain. But Motrin was enough to, you know, make me feel comfortable and like, you know, have me get through my day. But just listen to your body, and that, you know, that's the main point I want to get across, is you should listen to your body. The main thing I did to prepare before surgery was to make sure that the house was completely spick and span before I went off to have a surgery. If you are like the main housekeeper in your house, make sure that your house is clean before you go in, because you're not going to be able to do that, any of that stuff, for at least a week, up to 2 weeks. I wasn't really able to do anything for like 2 weeks, like household chores, like no way. I would make sure that you completely clean your house and do all of your laundry beforehand. Get some help if you need to, but everything in my house was taken care of before, like all the stuff that I've been putting off, like all the dishes, all the laundry, all the vacuuming, all the mopping, all the cleaning of everything was totally clean before, so that I could enjoy sort of, you know, a clean environment while I was recovering. The other thing I did was make sure that I had all of my pre-surgical papers all together all of the time. So I have this little like mesh pouch that has a zipper top, and every time that they gave me some new paper for me to sign, or like the permission forms or all kinds of things, I stuck them in this. And I actually had to have a, you know, I had to have a COVID test and you know, all kinds of like pre-surgical appointments before the surgery. So I just wanted to keep all my documents together so that if I needed to find information about a certain event, I could just open this and know exactly where all the stuff was. And this keeps it, actually, if you spill, you know, water on this, it's not going to get inside the pouch very easily. So that's why I love this thing. I got it at a Container Store. I'll try to link it down below, but you don't need to buy it from Container Store, but just some kind of pouch where you can keep your documents all together, so that you're not like, you know, keeping papers here and there and everywhere. It's also good for the post-surgical instructions too, for your husband, your wife, your sister, your brother, friend, whoever's going to be taking care of you, to have access to all of your pre-surgical and post-surgical information. I also made sure I had a lot of things to do that were not going to be stressful on my person, so that when I was recovering, I had things to watch and things to play. So maybe this is your time to like really queue up stuff on your Netflix queue or your Hulu queue or whatever. If you have things to watch, just, you know, get it going beforehand so that you have something to look forward to when you come home from the hospital. I happen to be a gamer, so I had lots of fun playing games on my Nintendo Switch while I was recovering, because that was something I could just do with my fingers and not have to worry about stressing my body out. And I watched a lot of stuff about space travel. For some reason, I became like, I went in this rabbit hole of like finding out about the Apollo missions, and then like the space shuttle. I went into a whole rabbit hole. I am just fascinated. On my next trip to Florida, I'm definitely stepping back at Cape Canaveral. Whoever is taking care of you for maybe a week after you have surgery, just let them know what you expect from them. Let them know that you might need help sitting up. Let them know that you might need help going to the bathroom, or like getting to the bathroom, you know, at least the first day or so, if you're, you know, pretty uncomfortable. I find that I didn't really need help getting to the bathroom once I came home, but the first time when I went to the bathroom at the hospital, I needed help. I had my medicines by my bed, and I could take them, you know, once every 6 hours. So I set a little alarm on my phone when I took my medicine, and then it would go off again when I needed to take it again. So make sure that you are taking your medicines at a regular interval, so that you can stay ahead of your pains, so that you don't like get into like a pain black hole, and then you have to like get over the hump again. It makes it really hard for your body. So just make sure you stay ahead of the pain by taking your medicines at a regular interval. So as of today, it's week 3, and I feel pretty good. I still feel a little bit painful in my incision area, but I feel mostly like back to normal. You know, I feel like I can move around, and I can definitely sit up by myself. My abdominal muscles are a little tired, but I feel mostly good. I'm just waiting for my incisions to heal, and then hopefully my surgeon says in a few months I'll feel so much better. I'm looking forward to, there's still a little bit of swelling around my abdomen, and you'll have that. You'll have some swelling around your abdomen where the incisions are, but that should go down, he said, in a few weeks. So I'm hoping that I'll get my figure back in a few weeks, and then I can wear some of my dresses that didn't fit before, and my skirts that didn't fit before. So hopefully I'll get my dainty little figure back. So I've checked in with my surgeon since my my surgery, and he says that everything looks really good. And he did tell me that he removed a total of 4 fibroids. 2 of them were the size of apples, and 2 of them were the size of plums. So they were pretty big. And what happens if, you know, they do the laparoscopic surgery is they cut them up so that they can fit through the little incisions. So the surgery took a little longer than he expected because there were more of them than he expected, and they were larger than he expected. So go in knowing that you might have, you know, 2 or 3, but it might turn out to be 5 or 6, or, you know, any of that stuff. So and I've seen some women have fibroids the size of grapefruits or, you know, small watermelons. That's huge, but luckily mine weren't that big. But having the sizes of apples and the sizes of plums, I mean, that's pretty big. So I hope this video helped if you are getting a surgery and you can live through it and be okay. And if you suspect you may have fibroids, please go to your gynecologist. If you have any of these symptoms and you suspect you may have fibroids, go and get it checked out. Don't be like me and think that this stuff is only in your head, because I tend to do that. I will like tough things out, but please don't do that. Go to your doctor, have everything checked out, make sure that you're okay. And if you have fibroids and you need to get them treated, there's a lot of options out there. I opted for only one treatment, but there's a lot of options out there for different people. Everyone's different, so you might choose something differently. So I hope that you found this video helpful, and I hope that you will feel better if you have this surgery. And I guess that is all. That is my story. I maybe give an update in like 6 months or so when, you know, I'm like post surgery, see if I feel better. But so far, 3 weeks out, I'm feeling pretty good. All right, guys, I hope you're having a great morning, great evening, great afternoon, wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.